Operation B5 knot in this awesome Rubberset 400 vintage restored handle. I wish the loft was just a little higher on this one, but we'll keep using it and maybe it'll be a little bit easier in terms of the backbone department. And I like to soak my badgers. You can just get them wet if you want to, but I like to soak mine for a few minutes. All right, the blade we're going to use today is my Nacet, and this is the 119th use of this one. Got 50 dots on this side and that many dots on that side. It's too late for me to do the math. What, 68? I think so. And it's starting to tug just a little bit over the last, I don't know, dozen shaves. Just on the first pass though, the rest are fine. The soap we're going to use today is the next to the last soap in my sample selection that I picked out that seemed to be kind of, you know, manly type scents. Bergamot, Cedarwood, and Juniper. Not a lot of strength when smelled from the bag, but hopefully it opens up once you actually start to use it. As always with samples, about the best way to do it is to hook off some of the sample. It's a 1/4 teaspoon measure I have here, because unless you just plan to, well, here, I'll take a moment and tell you, you know, I'm going to take this little part that I measured out and press it into the bottom of my bowl. And that's perfect, because one of the reasons that's nice is because that is all the soap I would need to use for this shave. If you press the whole sample, which looks like it might contain about a dozen uses, if you press the whole thing into the bottom of a lathering bowl, then you end up actually with too much soap, because as you're like, you only want to load for about 30 seconds or so, but then it takes a few more minutes then to build that lather. And so during those few more minutes, you keep adding, because all the soap is in there, you keep adding more soap into the equation, which requires more water. And then you know, so use two separate. If you want to press a big sample like this, you know, Sterling gives samples similar to this, a little bit bigger. If you want to press those into something, that's fine, but press them into a mug or the bottom of an empty soap container and not your lather bowl, because you need load time to be distinct and separate from lather building time. Because when you're building the lather, all you want to worry about is slowly adding that water to match your soap ratio. You don't want to keep adding soap because you've got more soap in the bottom here than you need. A little bit of advice there. Using the Sheraton as usual, Gillette Sheraton. I've got my Nacet blade, 100 and what uses? 119th use. Now, here's the clean side. This is the top side. Pretty much mint, if you will. And here's the business side. This is the, I'm always keeping that side with kind of the X is starting, yeah, there it is. I keep that down. And then I'm just shaving on one side of this blade, because number one, it doesn't really matter flipping the blade, because it's one edge on each end. It's just one edge. Number two, I want to see if I can kind of prove that, because when this thing finally gives up the ghost and I don't want to proceed with it anymore, I'm going to flip it over, and for the first time in this blade's career, have the X on the facing up side, and we'll see if there's any difference in performance. And so now we will take what we measured out, and I'm going to press it into the bottom of the lather bowl. So if you want to use up a whole sample at a time, then just don't put it in your lather bowl like I was saying. Find some other container to put it in, or just scoop a piece out each time you want to use it. So I'm just pressing it into the bottom here. And then I want to make sure that there's not really any pieces that are going to break off. Because if they do break off, then they won't really be a part of the lather, because they'll float around instead of being acted upon by the brush. All right, looks like we're good. And now I'm going to pause you while I splash my face with water, rinse my hands, you know, that sort of thing. All right, that's done. So I will take the brush, I will shake off most of the water. I'll go ahead and mention it again. I've mentioned it all the times I've used this soap over the past week almost. Come at it with a fairly dry brush. Now already it's actually poofing up. So what we had here happen is that this Badger brush just was able to contain and hold more water than I knew that was in it. You've been using these little bore brushes, and once you sling the water out of those guys, it's gone. But what that means is I'm going to have to just spend a little bit of time working these bubbles out before I add in the water. Nice little scent, not very strong. This brush has already got this kind of early lather going on here. All right, so now that that's somewhat stabilized, I'm going to add a whole teaspoon of water. Just stir slowly while it comes together. Saw a YouTube comment on one of my previous Mystic Water videos that said that they were having trouble with their speak. It was either the shaving soap or the stick, and they just weren't having any luck with it. And they tried this method of kind of coming into it with a little bit more of a dry brush, you know, only lightly damp, and then kind of working it for just a little bit before starting to add water. And they said it really made a big difference. Speak, I believe it's S-P-E-I-C-K. I think it's a European soap for sure. Maybe German, something like that. Very popular over there, and I have a stick of it, and it works really well. So this kind of technique may be very helpful for other types of products as well, as instead of just this one brand. Just as you would expect, I don't smell a whole lot of the cedar. Bergamot is in the citrus family, in the orange kind of family specifically. I think I do smell a little bit of that. Don't really know what juniper smells like. Okay, so we've used up 2 teaspoons. Now this brush is so dense, there's just so many hairs, that the lather you create is sometimes very different. Like the ratio I've been using lately. Oh crap, did I refill this guy or not? I think I just refilled him the first time right now. And the ratio I've been using with my bore brushes with this soap is about 4 or 4.5 teaspoons of water per 1/4 teaspoon. And those are with kind of small bores. Lots of flow through, plenty of room between the bristles and that sort of thing. Not nearly as dense as this knot. This is almost looking like it was going to be good enough at just half that. So I figured, you know what, I think I maybe know better, and I'm just going to say that this brush is kind of whipping it up in a different way, and so it looks like it's done when it's really not. Let's see if I'm right. I don't know. Very elastic lather. And this is after 3 teaspoons of water. So let's just, it feels pretty light as I'm pressing through it with the brush. That's something else to look for, how it resists you as you move the brush through it. Let's go ahead and try this. This is definitely less water than I usually use, but I think maybe I didn't quite top off that 1/4 teaspoon of soap. So if I didn't do that, then that means this ratio might still be about right. Splash my face one more time. All right, let's see what happens. This brush doesn't splay very much because it's so dense and doesn't have very much loft. The bristles aren't very long. But the tips are so soft, you almost don't mind it. But I hope over time it will start to open up with me. This same brush with just a little bit more loft is a very different animal. Like I've used this one, and it's just got just a few, 3 millimeters more loft, and I like it so much better. But I love this handle. Okay, the soap is strong enough for me to enjoy during the shave. It's still fairly weak. I'd say it's maybe a 3 or 4 out of 10 in terms of scent strength. All right, so now we're just we've done our scrubbing. Spread out a nice even layer, not a thick layer. There we go. I'll see if it's too dry. See if it needs to be hydrated more. Feels pretty good. I think I'm getting good protection from the soap. don't have a long growth today. I actually shaved around lunchtime. I was working late last night and I couldn't really get away to shave. But I didn't want to go to be right now shaving off 2 days of growth. All right, you know, I'm getting the cedar. I just got a good waft of cedar. Maybe not too much of the bergamot, maybe. And it's got to be a little bit of the juniper, and it's a pretty good scent. Not bad. All right, rinse. Now let's go back in. Get some more soap for the second pass. With this rigid backbone here, such density, I like to just jam it down into the soap in hopes that soap will just get all in amongst the bristles instead of just being on the outside. But because of that density, it doesn't actually hold a ton of soap till it opens up more. I might say that because of the density, this brush might be a challenge to face lather, because you know, with face lathering you're kind of building up all the soap in your brush and you're hoping it stays in your brush. You're not blowing your whole wad on the first pass, you know. Nice, slick, wonderful feel on my face. Also, another reason to keep this brush might be that someday I may appreciate and move toward a preference toward the firmness of more backbone and density and that kind of thing. And in that case, then this brush is going to be a real good tool. Very nice glide here. Now this is just the second pass, but I'm gonna do some of those strategic strokes if I can. That will help me out maybe in my third pass, and maybe a touch up to get this area a little better. And rinse. All right, third pass. Not really going to leave any standing droplets on there. So this is a pleasant scent. Definitely not feminine. Kind of an outdoorsy feel to it. But if you weren't looking for it, you actually might miss it, because it's just so light. I've had a really good time rewatching old Barney Miller episodes. Wasn't something I watched in my youth because it was a show that was a little older than me. Definitely not interested when I was back as a kid. But I'm having a blast with it now. I think it tracks pretty well in most of the episodes. Really happy with that cut. Just recently downloaded some Gunsmoke. Check that one out. Marshall Dillon and all that stuff. I think I watched 1 or 2 episodes. Big Valley, Ponderosa, or Bonanza, Gunsmoke. Like 3 big shows going on at once there. Alright, rinse. For my post shave, I'm going to try something I don't know that I've tried on camera before. All Man Skin Booster. This is from Lidl, Lidl, a German grocery store, whatever nationality it is. And this is just it looks kind of futuristic, but it's just a pump mechanism. Pretty modern, you know, kind of fresh type of scent. Almost bordering on a, you know, unisex, kind of clean. They have another one that's the same shape and stuff, except it's blue, and it's called Hydrogel. I got it on sale, but I think even it's just a few dollars anyway, and so I think it works pretty well. So we'll try it today. There we go. And the cap stays on pretty well, so this might be a good one to travel with, since the cap will protect the pumping. So there we go. Comfort was excellent. Shave closeness was really nice. And the lather I generated, really happy with it. And look, we have plenty left over here, so can definitely reduce the soap down from the quarter teaspoon that I've been using. This, you know, it didn't really splay too much, but these tips are just crazy soft. It's just the way they are. Then let me show you my scorecard. How many of these guys did I do? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 looks like. And I got about 10 different samples from Mystic Water. And some of them are, you can see the abbreviation, not my cup of tea. So these 3 scents are, even if they were stronger, I wouldn't really enjoy them too much because it's just not my cup of tea. The barbershop was way too weak to actually smell. The Bay Rum, I'm going to try it again. It was really light, but it was a pleasant scent. I want to try it again to see how light it was. It's almost like it was so light I didn't notice it, in which case it might not be a good one to keep going with. But it was nice, pleasant smell. The next one was probably my top one of the group, the Leather and the Smoke. It was still light, but it was present during the shave, and of course the performance is excellent. So that might be, you know, from this list so far, if I were to purchase a tub, that would probably be the one. And then now the oatmeal stout was also light. I think I said lightly present, yeah. But it was a softer scent. If you're looking for something really easygoing, then, you know, the oatmeal stout might be a good way to go. It smells just like it says. I didn't really pick out too much oatmeal, but it was a stout, you know, beer had been used to do that. I think Guinness, as a matter of fact. let's see, down at the very bottom, the one I tried just recently, Peugeot Depini. It actually had a nice, pleasant scent, but it was just really hard to smell it because it was so weak. And so where do I put the one I just tried, the Bergamot, Cedarwood, and Juniper? I'd probably put it with the one above it, the one I just talked about, the Peugeot Depini. Pretty good scent, but just so weak that you don't really smell it. I probably like the Peugeot just a little bit better in terms of scent, but that's my scorecard so far. We'll try the brown Windsor tomorrow, and that'll be the end. That'll be my 120th shave with this blade. That just worked out that way. And that'll be the end of my Mystic Water sample run, and we'll see. So, all right. No irritation. Really happy with the way the result went. I don't really see any redness or anything. I think sometimes it's a little more difficult to shave when the stubble is lower. When you get more stubble and it's been like a day and a half or something like that, depending on your growth. If you got more stubble, sometimes it's easier to knock it down and clean it out than when it's pretty short. But now I'm back on the right schedule now. I can shave late at night like I usually do. So tomorrow will be 120th. How about that? So there we go. I'm happy all the way around. This stuff doesn't absorb immediately, so it needs to give a little time. All right. I'll be back in a second after I clean up. So with this particular mix, 3 teaspoons of water for what was probably a little bit less than a 1/4 teaspoon of soap. And we ended up with probably 2 or 3 extra passes of lather. So we could back down that ratio a little bit. So there are definitely some of the Mystic Water soaps that give you more scent when you're shaving. I believe the maker communicated to me that they basically use kind of the same quantity of scent oil per each soap. And so that means that likely a lot of them will be kind of on the milder side. And so if that's your neck of the woods, then it's going to be a good company for you to try out. You can buy them in containers, or you can get them just refill pucks for like $4 or $5 off. But there are other scents. I didn't try out a lot of the like pungent types, mint or any of that. That's just not my style. The flowery ones as well, the citrus. There's neroli, bergamot, orange. They're all mandarin. They're all kind of in that orange family. Then of course you got the lemony type citrus ones, and all those. A lot of them are going to have a good bit of punch, and so they might be a lot stronger. They may be in the 5 strength, whereas all the ones I've tried here have been more along the 3 out of 10 strength level. And so there are going to be some scents, and if you look at it and you think, is that a piercing, a poignant, is that a pungent scent that's kind of strong, then that may help you to be able to pick out some that are a little on the stronger side. But I was just going kind of for manly blends and things that kind of appeal to my own tastes with this sample. We're good. All right, so we're all packed up and ready to go. This is Sugar Daddy Shaves. I hope there was something here that helped you out. It's a good shave for me. You take care and good night.